my friends, we reference a lot of articles for our segments here at Trifecta, and every now and then I find one written on a topic and in a tone that's just so perfect, I wish I'd written it myself. Hey, if I were Joe Biden or Fareed Zakaria, I would have written it myself. So as not to miss a moment of deliciousness, let's bring in my old buddies Steve Green and Scott Ott. Fellas, the New York Post article is called Batman in Love, written by me, Bill Whittle, under the unlikely pseudonym of Kyle Smith. Kyle just demolishes a new book about an old trend. The book is called Masterminds and Wingmen, Helping Our Boys Cope with Schoolyard Power, Locker Room Tests, Girlfriends, and the New Rules of Boy World. It's an appalling tract by Rosalind Wiseman, and it's part of what Smith refers to accurately, I might add, as a 40-year effort to turn boys into girls. Smith in the article says that she should have named the book Batman in Love because, quote, that's a great example from the book of the absurd nature of Wiseman's determination to reconceptualize boyhood to make it less alien to her, i.e. less masculine. Bingo. More on that in a minute. So, Steve Green, you low-life philandering drunken bastard, Miss Wiseman has the following advice for moms who are driving a carload of teenage boys and discover to her mortification that they are engaged in the alien form of male bonding typified by name-calling and perfecting the fine art of the personal, perfect, insightful insult. Wiseman advises that mom pull the car over, stop, and admonish the boys, telling them that such terms are hateful and destructive to self-esteem, and perhaps give examples of more appropriate names to call each other. So, Steve, what do you have to say to that, you preening, overrated, self-loathing drunk?
I have a few names for Ms. Wiseman. I can't say them on the air.
No, you can tell me, though, because we're buddies.
Yeah, hey, I got some insults for you too, my friend. Look, I'm the father of two small boys. I have a 7.5-year-old and I have a 3-year-old, and I often act in loco parentis to my 7-year-old's best friend, Ari, who comes over, and they play. And I have to tell you, your number one job as the parent of boys is to tend to the wounded. And I'm not kidding here. Little boys, they run around, they make up games, the games become contests, the contests have winners and losers, and before you know it, there's a garden hose involved, there's skin knees and bloody noses, and so you have to tend to the wounded. But you know what, these are the games. You know what, my son loves to watch nature shows, and I just saw one with him a couple of weeks ago on spring break with the tiger cubs. And tiger cubs, they pretend to kill each other. This is how they learn the skills they're going to need to survive as grown-up tigers. Well, that's what little boys do. That's what teenage boys do. They engage in these games, and they learn how to dish it out, they learn how to take it, and they learn how to take it in stride. And if you take those lessons away, they're never going to become men.
Good answer, Mr. In Loco Parentis. Where'd you get that term from, the Prince of Tides DVD special edition you were watching last night? Jesus.
That's right, that's right. Barbara does your hair, doesn't she?
Scott, watch the hair. Scott, you sanctimonious, holier-than-thou, Bible-thumping Jesus freak, what Kyle Smith describes as a boyhood scarring scenario takes place in a chapter called Why Batman Doesn't Ever Smile. Boys, you see, Scott, are violent, insulting, rough, and insensitive because their role models are fierce and self-reliant. She advises parents whose boys are watching the Dark Knight kick bad guys through walls to, quote, imagine what this Batman looks like when he's incredibly happy and excited. Imagine him in love. Lady, Batman used to smile. Batman used to be in love. And then a cold-blooded murdering punk gunned down his parents in cold blood right before his eyes as a small boy, and he swore a holy oath to rid Gotham City of evildoers, even at the cost of his fortune and even his immortal soul. He abandons all of the soft comforts of human society and wreaks havoc in the terrorizing form of the Dark Knight, a human angel of death, avenging the fallen and the weak and bringing ruthless justice to evildoers, no matter what filthy shadows they may hide in. And no, baby, that dress doesn't make you look fat at all. Tell me more about how Joanne, Kim, and Lady again today and took all the credit for the Christmas decorations. I've got all night to just sit and cuddle and listen. Those invalids being assaulted out there by murdering psychopaths will be just fine. What do you say, Mr. Holy Roller?
Well, my first theory was that Batman had met this woman who wrote the book. and that was the last time he ever smiled. You know, just moments before that.
He's out of the Batman business. I'm done. I've seen the kind of horror that I can't imagine.
My second theory is that Batman is wearing roughly 370 pounds of gear. I mean, if you have to carry around that kind of stuff, smiling isn't the first thing that occurs to you. And what is it that he sees that's so smile-worthy anyway? I mean, look at Gotham. It's dark and it's dreary and it's filled with organized crime and crazy Joker-like characters. This woman clearly does not understand the role that fantasy plays, the role that imagination plays, and somehow she thinks that just because we have, I mean, did she think that Gumby had the same kind of influence on me? I mean, is she worried that as a little boy, since I watched Gumby, I'm now going to try to pass through books and thump my head and get injured?
That's what Gumby was missing. He should have turned to Pokey and just basically put a fist up in his face and said, "Who are you?" My friends, Kyle Smith goes on to make the much larger point, which is actually a little serious, and that is, as we try ever harder to turn little boys into little girls and men into women, we do not make them better, we make them worse. And as our friends Helen Smith and Glenn Reynolds repeatedly point out, men are attending college, for example, in ever-diminishing numbers because they're sick of being engineered and mocked and despised. This so-called loving attempt at social engineering is in fact refined cruelty, and it's driven by fear that women like Rosalind Wiseman have built into them for reasons I neither know or care about. But some dark night, perhaps, she may find herself in an alley facing a man with a knife who didn't get a chance to read her book, and then, I wonder, who would she rather be walking home with at her side? Woody Allen or Bruce Wayne? For PJTV, I'm Bill Wardle.